Welcome back to the 12th edition of the Jake and Steve Show. I am Jake.
And I'm Steve.
And before we get started, I want to thank all our viewers for sticking with us for a whole year. Since this is the 12th edition, we have been through, what is that, 12 months is a year. We're pretty good at math here. So what we're looking at today is the rearview mirror of the Dow Jones. And when we talked last, the market was in a pretty ugly spot. We had seen around a 9% drop in the Dow Jones in October, but when we look at two things, we always look at fear and facts or math. And when we do the chart analysis, we always try to focus on the fact or the math behind it. And we were coming to a point where there was support at the June lows for 2023, and we were also approaching a very strong seasonal point in the market, which is deemed the best 12 months.
We were also looking, Jake, back at the fact that interest rates going higher was really fueling the market to go lower, and we were looking for a turning point, and we hit that turning point when the Cowboys started to play much better and whooped on the Eagles last night.
Well, I'm not going to be able to speak to any of that. I know that Ryan is a huge Eagle or Cowboys fan, and Gabby is a huge Eagles fan, so there's definitely tensions within the office.
It's a great day in here today.
Oh my gosh. Well, before we get to the road ahead and what we have next on the scorecard, we're going to send it over to Brian for part 3 of Planning 101, Know What You Own.
All right, thanks Jake, thanks Steve. And before we get into the third installment of Know What You Own, got to mention that we're forgetting about the best team, the hottest team in the NFL. That's my Denver Broncos. You can talk all you want about the Cowboys, and of course, we all know the truth about the Eagles. But the Broncos looking pretty solid right now. And Jake, I'm just wondering if that's a new shirt. You look good. You look good. So let's get into Know What You Own, third installment. We've talked about bonds at this point. We've talked about individual stocks. Today we're going to talk about ETFs. And no, it does not stand for Eagles Too Fragile. ETFs are exchange-traded funds. So think of it this way. Last time we talked about individual stocks like Apple, Microsoft, IBM. You can own those individually, or you could own all of them together. And typically these ETFs will be made of hundreds of stocks, and they'll be in this basket, and that entire basket can be bought or sold on the exchanges. And typically they'll just track those stocks over time. They're not actively managed. Some are, where the stocks or the holdings can be moved in and out, but many times they'll just sit there, and then we, as an active manager, can monitor the price action and decide what's best to own or what we feel is appropriate for portfolios. So that's a little bit about exchange traded funds. Now you know all about stocks, bonds, and ETFs. Go Broncos. I'm going to send it back to Jake and Steve for the road ahead.
Brian, thank you very much for all of that information. Now that I know what stocks, bonds, and ETFs are, I will be a good portfolio manager. Thank you for educating me. But more importantly to everybody watching this who has said something to me about my shirt after Brian made fun of me in my last video that I didn't even know was going to happen. Is this a new shirt? This is a new shirt. And that's honestly the only thing that matters in this video. Nothing else other than my new shirt.
It looks great.
Thank you.
Looks great, Jake. So now we're back at the scorecard, the good old scorecard that tries to give an impression of what we believe and what we think is right. Looking back, November, we were right again, Jake, but just like nobody thinks the Cowboys are good, nobody actually listens to us and believes us. As a matter of fact, I had emailed everybody in October to say, hey, I think the rates are going to change. And as we'll see in the chart, the rates did change and the market changed with it.
So now, where does that put us? If you remember in the last chart, 2 charts ago, we said 1, 2, 3 was the likely wave pattern coming out of the October low. And what happened? We saw a pretty strong move, I'll say. It's actually the 18th best month all time for the S&P 500. that was November for you. And what we were doing during October was we were loading up on small caps, which actually outperformed in November. But now we're getting to the point where, and if you've been following along this entire year, we're hitting some resistance right here around 36,500. I said it right this time. If you go back 6 videos when I messed up and Steve made fun of me, not gonna happen this time. I practiced all night. The likely scenario here is a move lower, and we've been preparing the portfolios for that by taking a lot of gains in different large cap ETFs, because those have been the things that have outperformed all year, and you're likely to see some profit taking. And Steve, tell them why that's about to happen.
Well, just like we keep talking about the story of interest rates, we really dropped in the rates, and now there's some thought that they could go back up a little bit with the Fed meeting coming up here this week. There's a good chance we'll see some profit taking, as we should, and that does correspond to a move lower before resetting into maybe the Christmas Santa Claus rally, the first part of January. Some seasonality is in our favor for the next few months, so we could be in a position to see higher market values over the next few months, and then it gets interesting into later next year with the election season and things like that.
So as far as the portfolios go, like I said, we've been raising cash over the last week or so. So expect to see the activity come out in your account when you get your monthly statement for December. You're probably going to see a little bit of a higher cash value, but we're going to continue to put that cash to work and find different areas of the portfolio to find that value for you for that growth. So if you keep watching the video and you see things that you don't like or you have comments on, please feel free to let us know. As we go into 2024, we will continue to do the Jake and Steve show, as we've had a lot of positive feedback, but we are always willing to find people to tell us, hey, this is what you can improve on, and recommendations are always welcome. So continue watching, and we'll see you next time. Have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.